This is Lit, Leadership, Impact, and Technology. These episodes are with myself, Rob Z. So I have 20 plus years in broadcasting. I'm a content creator. I'm a digital expert. And my partner in crime for branding, for marketing, for consulting online is Kyle Damon. Kyle, what do you do? What are you all about?
Hey everybody, 15-year digital branding expert. I've launched several national brands, and I'm here to help everybody change the way we do business and earn money in this world.
When we talk about LIT, Leadership, Impact, Technology, when you have great leaders using technology properly, they create huge impacts in their business, in their industries, in their lives, and they create a mission behind that. Great leaders use technology to create a massive impact. How can you become the best leader that you can be and use your leadership to harness new technology to make that massive impact in lives, in business? You ready to get into this, man?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
This is Rob Z Radio.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. This is the first episode of LIT on the podcast on Rob Z Radio. Leadership, Impact, and Technology. Kyle Damon, my partner, is here with me. Kyle, what's happening?
Good to see everybody.
Didn't mean to cut your introduction there off. Rachel Lingenfelder is here, who helps us with video and all kinds of stuff. Hi, Rachel.
Howdy.
Thank you for being here, both of you. So what we're going to talk about today, like I said, LIT, so Leadership, Impact, and Technology. You need great leaders using solid technology and having a knowledge of that information to create impact in your business, in your life, and in other people's lives. It's very the subject matter around the acronym of LIT, I think, is super important for anybody to take in. And we've been doing this now, live videos and working together for a couple of months. We want to touch on what being a leader is all about, because I think the most important piece of this, if you don't get the leader part right, it's hard to get the tech right, it's hard to get the impact right.
Yeah, and it's a never-ending process. It's there's nobody out there, especially the best leaders. They know specifically that you never get there. It's always an ongoing journey, and it's best done a little bit each day, right? I say 2% a day. If you can get 2% better each day at any given thing, like, you're making good progress.
Absolutely, man, and that's the key to everything. The daily progress, chipping away at something on a daily basis, even when you don't want to, even when it didn't work the way you wanted it to work. You still went ahead and made a couple things that helped you move forward. Shout
out to Rachel. She's 23,
23,
and she's here chilling with us and learning these good leadership skills. And I don't know, a lot of people 23, at that age at this time of day, they're out doing other things, but Rachel's investing in her knowledge and her education. So anybody else out there, youngins watching, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, when I was 23, I was partying a lot, wasting a lot of time, staying up till 6 a.m., not learning anything for the most part. Well, learning what not to do, I guess, which was a long lesson that took me to learn. Probably still learning it at some level. So I think, Rachel, with you coming in here, I guess to ask you that, because I think one of the most important parts of being a leader, and Ray Overdorf, who's my mentor, has been on this podcast multiple times, and something he always talks about is if you're going to be a leader, you have to have a coach, but you also have to be a coach, right? So you got to find somebody that you are helping bring up, but you're also finding somebody who's bringing you up further. And that's a constant thing throughout your entire life. You have to stay on that path if you want to do things right and make sure you're adding value to people's lives, but also adding value to yours. So, Rachel, what does give you motivation to want to do this sort of stuff, to be involved?
Well, a lot of things, to be honest. I think my family has always been really business oriented, and they always set a lot of high goals. And I see a lot of them, whenever they reach them, they keep on going. I think I hear Gary Vee talk a lot about how he sets a goal for himself, but that's so many years ahead. And then when he thinks that he gets there, he sees himself even further ahead. He just keeps going. So I've always tried to meet the goals that I've set. I think now that I'm learning what you guys are into and I'm becoming more knowledgeable about the a path in business and social media, I see these higher goals that I'm setting for myself, and I see myself climbing the ladder more, and I think that that's really fulfilling. And what you guys are doing is so much more. It's influencing me to try harder and to go out and take more risks, because I think a lot of things are being played too safe nowadays, especially kids my age. They want to get a college degree. They want to make sure that their parents are happy with the things that they're doing. But at the same time, there are people out there that are taking those risks, going out to moving from the East Coast to the West Coast, like just grinding every single day and making sure that they're doing what they love. And I think that like that's something that I've always wanted to do, is just find something in business and work. Can I swear on the podcast?
Yeah. I mean,
Work my ass off and do
where's
and
the
just
bleep button?
and just be successful. I think successful people are very inspiring, and I'm happy to be grouped up with two really successful people in the Blair County area.
Wow, geez, what
Thank
a
you.
compliment! My
Compliments.
goodness gracious.
Of course.
And I think what you're saying is right. And I think for me, the journey started about 5 to 6 years ago. And before that, I've been in radio for a long time, since I was 15. But I didn't really think of leadership. I never thought about moving forward. I didn't have any goals. I didn't even know what my skills were. So you mentioned Gary Vee, right? You mentioned this new group of people. When you talk about leadership, I love anybody who's doing leadership online, anybody who's motivating, inspiring people. And you talk about Gary Vee, Ed Milet, Ty Lopez, Billie Jean. There's tons of people in that field who have been doing this for decades, if not a decade,
Or
if
longer,
not
yeah.
more. So now you're getting direct access, because you could have read tons of books back in the day and gotten that information through words, but now you can actually see them live their life and get through podcasts free information that otherwise 10, 15, 20 years ago, I don't know how you would have gotten the information unless you would be beside that person in a mastermind group with them or something like that. So we live in this new time where I think learning is cool. I think it's becoming cool, and I that's something I wish I would have experienced when I was growing up. I didn't have that experience of learning being something that was highlighted and awesome, and that's huge.
Especially around leadership, it seems like the last 10 years that's, people just feel more called to leadership, and it's more available, right? Like this information. Before you had to go to one aisle in Barnes & Noble or the bookstore, and you could find some leadership books, and that was cool, but now it's just so much more readily available.
Yeah, and it's been there the whole time. I think people through every generation have wanted to know these secrets. If it's marketing secrets, if it's business, money secrets, life secrets, health secrets, whatever those things are, people have always searched for them. But you didn't. How did you trust somebody? Number one, and how did you access the information and apply it? It was very difficult before. So now it becomes so readily available. I think being able to sift through all of the BS and find people who are doing it authentically and who are the real deal. We live in a very unprecedented time in our culture, where we finally come out of I feel like we've come out of the age of cable, which was almost like a hypnosis that a lot of the country was under.
Interesting.
Or the world was under. And now we've broken back free of that to where it's free information flying around everywhere. I'm not saying hypnosis isn't still out there happening. I know it is, but when you think of like TV advertisements, that's like the ultimate form of persuasion and
It's
preying on somebody's their survival
It's
instincts.
there's understanding, if you're in marketing long enough, you understand that there's different theories or schools to marketing, and there are programs that are very specifically designed to trigger your more basic emotions, which in a sense, as you say, hypnotizes you in a certain way. I mean, it's not like you're staring at the screen and there's spirals in your eyeballs, but
Right.
It's made to get you angry, it's made to get you incited, it's made to get you worried, and that is how they capture your attention longer.
They trigger you, I think would be the
They
right
trigger.
word.
That's a great word. Great way to put
If
it.
they can initiate an emotion, and no matter what that is, I think that's penetrable. Like that's a great. I think a lot of businesses nowadays, like how you guys have been talking about the story behind everything. If that story has makes an emotional connection with somebody, I think that's huge.
Yeah, and we like to, with Rob and I like to sleep at nights. I don't know about you guys, so I just like to help sell products that are high quality, that people benefit from, and I like to be straightforward in my advertising, and that just has it works that way. When you treat people as if they're intelligent and and smart, they will act that way. It doesn't matter, where they are. So if you make authentic marketing that's just clear and transparent, you don't have to do those tricks. And we call that old economy, or we talk a lot about that. Cable was a certain way, and fortunately that's, we're now transcended that. But one thing, Rob, you brought up.
Some of us have.
Some of us have. Yeah, it's still out there. And if you want to watch an hour of TV and spend 45 minutes watching commercials for your 15 minutes, 20 minutes of program, by all means keep doing that. But I think the times are evolving.
Yeah, they're sick. People are sick of it. They're there's an option now. I think that's the main thing, is there's a viable option to get away from that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I look at the persuasion, like we're talking about these triggers, like they might trigger some sort of survival instinct emotion. It's still important to use those things, right? Those are great strategies, and that's a very important thing. I mean, it could seem deceptive to use those things, but if you're using them for the right purpose to get somebody to act on something that's going to impact their life or change their life, I see that as a benefit. Why not use the tricks of the trade to get people's mindset towards something that is going to actually help them move forward, instead of selling them pills or pharmaceuticals or whatever that thing might be.
I'm immediately cautious of any advertising or marketing, and this is something you guys might want to think about. Wednesday mornings we do calls, and we talk about business and leadership and that sort of thing. And Rob and I put on different things throughout different times of the week for people looking to grow and excel. And the one thing we were mentioning was how to make sure you're not going to get scammed. We all know and see people making good money with the internet, whether that's on Amazon or building a website or whatever it is. How do you not get scammed? And a big thing that we come into is if they're trying to make it sound like it's just step 1, 2, 3, like lickety split, just be cautious of that, because if they're oversimplifying the solution, in almost everything in life, there's never simple solutions. That doesn't mean it's hard per se, but things are never usually as easy as what the slick Rick marketer guy is going to tell you it is, especially if, a diet pill is a great example of that, right? And I'm just going to eat this pill and get slim. Well, sometimes pills can boost your metabolism, but you need to get your diet and increase your exercise, and combined it'll work. But if there's a magic pill, be careful.
I feel like drop shipping is one of those magic pills.
It seems to be these days, yeah.
It can work, and I did it for a couple of months and made some money, but
Wow.
I didn't have any passion for it.
Yeah.
It's a great starter. It's like a multi-level marketing thing. It's like a great way to learn business without having to have your own products. But at the same time, it's not going to happen overnight. You got to put the work in to make it actually happen. But I think to be able to trust somebody online, look for content. How much content is out there? Free content from that person that you can take in,
point.
or they have a book, or do they, what's their. You got to make sure they're legitimate in some sort of way before you just start buying stuff from them.
What makes them credible? I think you guys talk a lot about social proof in businesses, and I think that's a big part of it. And you see people getting wrapped up in it, and you feel like you want to say something, but I mean, you got to live and you got to learn.
Yeah.
So, pyramid schemes, man.
The Illuminati.
Those things will get you.
Come on. They will. And I guess they used to. Amway. People were still in Amway. Those things still exist.
Yeah.
Scientology
I got to
still
do a
exists.
pyramid scheme.
Did you?
Well, not all pyramid-based businesses are bad per se. We know the essential oil businesses are, quite good things, and it keeps a lot of people busy with something they're passionate about, and people who don't want to run the nuts and bolts of a business. Those types of programs can be beneficial, but certainly you get to that edge of it where, some of those things are just for making money, and they'll pump it for a few years, and the guys at the top make all the money, and everybody else is left holding their brochure at the end. And
That's very true for any like LuLaRoe leggings or Rodan and Fields. All of those things do work, and they're good products, especially Rodan and Fields, great skin product. But if you are the 100th person in your city to jump on board, even the 20th person, you're probably not going to make that much money. If you get in first, second, third, up to maybe the 10th person, you got a good shot. But I look at those things as a way to learn. It's not necessarily I'm going to do this thing for life. This is a great starter and a great introduction. I was just talking to this, I mentioned this earlier before the podcast, this kid yesterday who was almost signed to a country music contract. Then his parents made him ditch the whole dream that he had to go into sales. So he sold cars for a couple of years and he killed it. Made tons of money selling cars, and he was upset about it. And it made him really depressed that he threw away his dream. But when I was talking to him, I said, and I wish I would have had this experience when I was younger. Getting into sales might be the best thing you can possibly do. Learning how to sell yourself or sell a product, especially one that you don't really, if you can sell something you don't actually care about, you're going to be much better at selling something that you do care about.
The mechanics of selling, yes, you'll learn the mechanics, but I think you also, selling has a bad rap in certain ways, and people say, I don't want to sell. But if you believe in what you do and you just make a choice to never sell something that, here's the thing, maybe you don't believe in it per se or you don't use it, but if you know it's an honest product, you never sell something that wouldn't benefit somebody. And if you do that, it's not like selling. You're just having conversations and asking people what's important to them and take a consultative approach. Then it's not like that old way of, kind of like old TV, right? Those old ways of doing things. It's not pushy. It's not manipulative. It's not deceptive.
Yeah.
you can do it in a way where it's stand up and honest and good.
And it's exactly. And that I always think of a used car dealer when I think of a salesman, who could sell anybody on anything, even if it's garbage. Well, and you, like you said, Cal, you got to sleep at night, man. And I guess some people are able to. Some people don't have as much guilt as I do. I have too much guilt. I would, and I also believe in karma, and whatever you throw out there is going to come back. Eventually, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it. And maybe in the interim, you need that extra cash, but later on, it's not going to pay for it. It's going to be
the guy out in the parking lot selling like fake jewelry.
Yeah,
his trench coat.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you need?
Yeah, and it's still happening, and those people probably they're struggling. The more money I've made, the more I've realized that when you don't have much money, you'll do anything to get some money. And that's where that scarcity comes from. And it's hard not to have a scarcity mindset when you're in debt, when you don't have much, or especially if you have a family and you got to feed people, then you'll do whatever you got to do. So that's difficult. But you got to sift your way through that and find your way through that.
Yeah, it takes discipline, and we've all been there in that sense. And it's important to remember that when you're feeling that scarcity, it's okay to feel it, but you also have to check your emotions, because the body will put you in a fight or flight state. Yeah. And unfortunately, in this day and age, we used to run from bears, right? If you're stressed, there's a bear behind you, and you got to go.
Yeah.
But now, we're stressed in an office, and we're not running. We're not running those emotions out. So that adrenaline runs in your system longer, and it stresses you out and wears you out, faster, and your adrenals fatigue. So you've got to find ways to process that sort of stress in a way that doesn't cause you to go out and do the desperate things. You got to stick with a plan long enough. And, the concepts that we were talking about here through leadership, impact, and technology, to be a leader, you need to stick with the plan long enough. And it's that, I don't know if grit's the right word, but that ability to stick through something when it's tough. Or, for instance, we're doing live videos, every week now, and we're talking about good marketing concepts and things, but we don't have 1 million people in the audience yet. But we know if we keep doing it consistently and show up, that over time it will work. And that's what really makes a leader. You don't have to be in an office, to be in a fancy office to be a leader. And I find, if you guys have worked in corporate environments, like there's the guy, like he wants that office, and he wants to be called the boss, but he has no interest in being a leader. Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's everywhere.
Right.
It's very often.
And that's, I don't know the percentage of these things, but a lot of people in higher places are they're trying to climb the ladder to win. They want to win. And that's, I feel like that's like the 1980s, right? Yeah. Do what it takes to
Greed
get up.
Greed is good.
Yeah. But what you just said made me think of 2 words: persistence and resilience. When you're doing something to get to the next level of whatever that thing is, like doing these live videos. If you're not resilient, that's first the toughest piece. If you do something, because you might not even get criticism from somebody else, you might just be criticizing yourself. It didn't go the way you wanted it to. Everything may have gone right, but that one thing went wrong, and you beat yourself up about it for days.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's pointless. It's wasted energy. Yeah. You got to love the process. Mm-hmm. And Rachel, you mentioned Gary Vee. He loves the process. You can tell that dude just likes to create things, and he's super passionate about it. So when he does something and it doesn't work the way he wants, that's great. That's a lesson. Now, how do I tweak it? How do I change it?
Yeah,
and the persistence comes in.
That's one of the big things that I've listened to countless talks that he does, and like not even just actual talks in front of audiences, but just him talking into a telephone, speaking to normal people like us, trying to get a leg up in the business world. But he always talked about there's macro failures and then there's micro failures, and he's like, a macro failure like that can be detrimental, but the micro failures, those are the ones that they make him go crazy. They make him want to work harder. And he's proud of those because, hey, it didn't work out. Let's go and find another way. And another, like, he's just a passionate guy. And I think that's another thing that should drive people through those ups and downs. Like, if you're passionate about something, like there is a story about a kid trying to sell women's jewelry. And he knew nothing about women's jewelry or what the trends were, but he was a good salesman. He got sales because of it. Well. He learned a lesson about that. And I just think, the persistence, and you have to be able to adapt. Because the business world is always changing. I think with anything else, if you don't have adaptability,
this is
sink.
Life in general.
Yeah.
Right? Life in general. The only for sure thing that's ever going to happen is change.
Oh, yeah.
Everything else is not for sure.
Yeah.
But definitely everything will change. With your life, with the world, with everything. Everything will constantly be in flux. and in change. If you can't accept that, you're going to struggle with everything.
Yes.
So you
It's
might
just-
as well get on board with it. And
Just accept it. Let it go. And that's
Yep.
easy to say, man. But I
Yeah.
used to work with people who could not accept change. Anything that changed, they were a mess.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
complained about it for months.
right.
And then they drag people into it.
It's just so much wasted energy. It's like driving around with your brakes on. It's just
Yeah.
like you don't get it. It doesn't help you solve your problems. Your problems don't get any better. You waste a bunch of emotional energy. You probably piss off everybody around you. And like what we say in our Wednesday morning trainings is like we say most people. Most people sleep in as long as they can. Most people don't get up and work on their leadership knowledge. Most people never finish what they start. Most people gossip every time they get a chance. Like, don't be like most people.
Yeah.
Now, it's tricky because we're social creatures and we're hardwired to fit in with the crowd. And everything that we struggle with is because our biology and because it served us at one point in the tribe or out, in a more primitive environment that dude, when you had a tribe and like winters were harsh and long and you were in a hot, like you stayed with that tribe no matter you liked them or not. You had to just shut up and deal with it. So this is we're working with our biology. So if you feel stressed, if you feel anxious, don't judge yourself from it because this is a natural biological thing that you just have to figure out and work your way through. And Rob and I are both into meditation to a degree, and breathing is the most powerful thing. Like there's talks about, anti-anxiety medicine. There's talks about, cannabis these days for people with anxiety. There's all sorts of ways to curb anxiety. Exercise is fantastic. And it's different for everybody. There's no right or wrong way. But if you can get a hold of your breathing for 90 seconds and just do a few deep in-breaths and out-breaths, your entire emotional state will change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the state change. Tony Robbins talks about it all the time. I hate, like, I try not to push meditation on people, but I think if there's one thing that will actually work to change your internal state is to pay more attention to what your internal state is and to figure out what's going on in there. There's nothing more important. You can't impact anybody else's life if you're just constantly struggling with your own personality, your own turbulence. And there's so many things that affect that turbulence. But I took a personality test once, and it defined I forget exactly how it went, but it defined in some way my internal state as turbulent. And that bothered me a lot.
Interesting.
Because it doesn't, the situation didn't matter. It could be the same situation 2 separate days, but I was feeling one way one day and feeling another way the next day.
Yeah.
And it could ruin everything. Now, today's a great example. Coming in here, I've been exhausted all day, and I don't know why. I have the past 2 nights I've been up kind of late working on stuff. So I didn't have a real great sleep, so I've just been feeling off all day. But I've learned that the state changes. Doing this sort of stuff. What we had a content meeting earlier.
That was
then
great,
then we did a Facebook Live, and now we're doing a podcast. I feel like I'm on fire because
You're in your flow. You're in your zone of genius.
We're lit.
We're lit.
Exactly.
We're
yeah,
lit.
that's
We're
where
lit.
the word's coming from, the acronym's coming from, because when you got to put yourself, and this will go back to my whole thing on creating superheroes, you got to find your superpowers, because when you harness your superpower and that thing that gives you energy, that thing that you are naturally competent in, and you're helping people with it, when you tap into that and do it all at 60 to 80% of your day, then you're fine. You can kick yourself out of that mentality, that mode, whatever bad mood you're in, pretty easily.
Yeah. Being in your zone of genius is something that we're going to be talking about more and more.
The zone of genius. I like that.
And it's definitely not my term. That I forget who that was.
Well, I've never heard it, so to me, it's from you.
That was me. That was my idea.
There you go.
No, I mean, if you think about that, and this is hard in the corporate world, because the way the corporations have this thing set up right now, and I think there's trouble with this, and you're going to hear me talk a lot about the new economy, because the things are changing so fast, and that corporations are going to shrink over the next 10 to 15 years. And this isn't me talking. This is various Harvard Business Review. Like, if you want to talk about running a business from a scientific standpoint, to the scientists and the left brain people out there, like, you can run a business as is like a scientific laboratory with no risks and no guessing. Sure, you have to take some risks, but if you understand how a company is built in a way of a team that stays together, like the data's out there, like in terms of being inclusive and giving them, it's freedom, autonomy, and purpose, I think is what mastery, autonomy, purpose. That's the book, Good to Great, is it? I forget which book that is, but
I don't know, but go ahead. Sorry.
Autonomy, mastery, purpose. That's what it is. And if you don't give your employees those 3 things, they're not going to stay.
Yeah.
And so what happens is your role at your job gets so fractionated down into something too simple, and you're missing either an autonomy or a mastery or a purpose in your work, and then therefore your soul becomes depleted. So if companies don't understand that, they're going to have a hard time keeping talent, and companies that don't keep talent are obviously having high turnover and they struggle. And if you're working for a company like this, you want to think about, you want to get out of there, first of all, or you want to talk to the people at the top and say, hey, I listened to this great podcast, and, whatever. If you're studying this stuff, Rachel had a situation with this not too long ago where she just went ahead and set up a meeting. Rachel, you want to talk about, you don't even have to mention the names or anything like that, but what happened there?
Well, like you mentioned, I do the morning classes on Wednesdays, and it's a lot about, it's Quit Factory, and it's about doing more for yourself, like with the job that you're in, and then learning about how to be an entrepreneur. Even though, like, personally, I don't label myself as that, but
as an entrepreneur, you are. You have a dog walking service. You're an entrepreneur. Own it, sister.
Okay, I own it.
You got it.
Okay.
But the way you're talking right there, Rachel, that's how I used to talk all the time to myself. Was like, I'm not that.
It feels weird putting
that
on
little
their
voice
shoes.
inside of my head, just always telling me, no, I don't think that. But
it goes away over time. You have to just chip away at it, right? You got to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm chipping right now.
I know.
Chipping away.
Yeah.
10:30 p.m. and we're still cruising.
Oh man. Yeah, but no, the classes are being really helpful. It's challenging to me to get out of my comfort zone. I mean, I've done theater since I can remember, and getting up in front of 1,000 people is not really some people's cup of tea. But to me, that just seems like another day at the office. And I've always loved doing it. But approaching someone higher up in business has always been a sort of anxiety for me.
And it is for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, it can be a process with finding, like, I couldn't find my voice for a while. I didn't really know, like, if I had a voice in business or I had a voice for business at all. And then I started listening to you guys talk. I started reading stuff. I started getting books. I've got a pile of books at home that's helping me learn, like, who I am, how I'm branding myself. Well, I finally decided I might as well just go and ask for a meeting about something that came up at work, and I did. And my boss was really quick to say, yeah, like, let's get together, let's collaborate. I want to hear all your ideas, and I've got lists of ideas. And
this was regarding social media and other things.
Yeah, doing office work along with helping out. Like, we have a small social media team. It's not like set in stone, but I would want to be a collaborator with that.
You can help with strategy and things.
Yeah, and I mean, I've only been in this for roughly a year and a half, going on 2, and I think I have a pretty good foot in the door, maybe a big toe.
Well,
I don't know.
You know 90% of more than everybody. That's the thing. Like, you can read a few books and do a few things, and like, you can automatically be better than 80% of the people out there about that given subject. So you can attain mastery fairly quickly in certain areas, and spending a year and a half on it you don't feel like it, but it puts you further ahead than you realize.
Yeah, and that goes back to that whole change with business and economy, and the way that social media and how business is just being approached anymore. I felt very stuck. Like 7 months ago, I just didn't. I wanted to try new things, and I wanted to be heard. And when I finally spoke up, it didn't end well. I mean, I wanted to try and understand what I was doing wrong, but I think
some companies you're just not going to be a fit for. And speaking up, well, it maybe feel a little turbulent. Rob, going back to your change concept.
Oh yeah,
like we're avoiding these conversations we need to have at work. But guess what? It's your life. This is your life and your health, and how you want to spend your days. Have those conversations. Do them with patience and compassion, and always try to see it from the other side. If you're diplomatic about it, and most importantly, don't wait until you blow up. When you're emotional is the worst time to have those conversations.
Yeah.
If you get an emotional point, you say, I'm going to have this talk with him in 2 weeks, no matter what. And then after things have calmed and settled, then you come back, and it can be even just a few days. Then you have that conversation. Hey, first of all, I want to apologize if I miscommunicated. I didn't mean to offend you, but here's what's important to me. And for me to be here, I've got to have this, and I need this, and I need this. Because I've been here for 3 years. I do this for you every day. If you don't speak up for yourself, and this is at the Quit Factory. This is the morning events that we do. Quitfactory.com. This is the things we talk about, that if you don't negotiate for yourself and the amount you're getting paid in your position, if you don't negotiate for yourself, you'll always get the lowest common denominator. They'll pay you just enough that you don't quit, and then you end up doing just enough so you don't get fired, and then you're not moving your skills forward, you're resentful, and then you're in a negative emotional state all day, and
everybody's
so
losing.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody, the whole thing's falling apart. And honestly, I mean, one of the reasons I started my own business is because I really hated talking to bosses. Like, I really despised the whole situation.
Well, isn't that a nail in the head?
It's nerve-wracking, number one, and I've dealt with. I always feel like I'm a kid. I always feel like I'm just this child walking into adult rooms.
Exactly.
Even though I'm an adult, I don't feel like one in my mind. So that's one of the things I've always struggled with was being able to speak up when I knew something was right. And I'm a very passive person, so I've been very passive. I try to be more forward with how I feel. I find it much easier to be forward when I'm running my own business than when I'm working for somebody else and they have somebody above them they have to answer to, and you got to go up this chain of command.
Yeah,
and
it gets wonky.
It's just the way things are. Some people excel in those in those environments. I don't excel at all.
There's corporate environments that are more open than others. And
Yeah.
It depends on the industry. It depends on a lot of stuff. I would say it's still probably 80% is sort of stale in corporate, still in the world. Maybe 10 to 20% of businesses are progressing a little bit.
Yeah, but going back to the point was like, honestly, I dipped out of my job, and I tried to get ahead there, and I tried to do things to put myself in a better position to make more money. But in the end of the day, half of it was just I was afraid of really rocking the boat and pushing things where I knew in the direction of like social media, for example, or I was in radio, right? So the example of like I wanted to do my radio show and then sell my radio show, and that was something that they didn't want me to do because they saw that as a conflict of interest to the other salespeople, which I found to be ridiculous. But I'm not the kind of person to fight and claw my way to make something happen.
Right.
I thought, well, I have this other opportunity I've been working on. I'm going to go do that thing. And it gave me more reason to go do that thing. And now the funny thing is I actually am doing what I wanted to do in radio by myself and not for a company.
Rob Z Radio Show, everybody. Check it out.
Yeah, Rob Z Show. Check it. I mean, the funny thing is that it kind of worked out that way, but I could still, and I'm really glad that it didn't, because I could be it forever, and it could have worked out where I was selling and being on the air, and I probably would have never left. And that's kind of the crazy thing to think about.
Thank God for terrible bosses, everybody. They spur you along.
Right. Before I don't want to go too long here. One of the things we were talking about moving forward, and you were talking about Gary Vee and like how you watch these people online, whoever that might be, or maybe you know somebody in person, maybe it is your boss or whatever. Maybe it's you who's always moving forward. And like our country, democracy, capitalism is built on people creating things and moving forward and constantly changing. Going back to this whole change topic, that's why when you think like exponential growth, because that's what this all is built on. Capitalism is built on entrepreneurs who are constantly growing, because if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yep.
You can't stand
Forward or
still.
backward.
And that's true for fitness, that's true for your personal health, that's true for almost everything. You must always be looking forward and changing things and tweaking things and making them better, because if you're not, it's going to fall apart. So I find that interesting that like we complain about this, these corporations are money hungry and all they care about is feeding the stockholders and making sure they're constantly growing. But that's what this is all about. That's what people are all about, really.
Yeah.
It's a weird dichotomy.
Yeah, here's what comes up for me with that, Rob, is like, here's the thing. The science says if you have generally less than 6 hours of sleep on average a night, you're setting yourself for detrimental long-term brain decline. And you want to try to get those 6 hours. And there'll be periods of your life, in weeks and months and maybe years of your life where you can't do that. But for the most part, you want to aim to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And that's your rest period. Outside of that, what can you be moving forward? And if there's something you're not passionate about, or if you've kind of been, in so many ways, the schools tell us what to do and where to go, and all this is where you can make good money, and this is that. Well, if you bought that bill and you're in that situation, that's okay. But here's what I want to say with this, Rob, is that no matter where you are, is that don't let your boss's poor performance or the poor performance of your company cause you to perform poorly. Don't use that as an excuse. Show up your best every single day, no matter where you go, and you'll transcend that situation, I promise. There's only 2 reasons you're not asking for a raise. Is 1, because you're afraid to and you probably should, or 2, because you're being a jackass, and even though the company may not be the best in the world, you don't need to be lowering yourself to that level. Show up each day on time. Do the good job the best you can, and that will make a difference. If not at that job, somebody's going to see you and refer you. And I've had this happen to me. I've been at places where people just saw me doing a good job, and they offered me a better situation somewhere else. So you don't know who's watching, and you don't know where you you can go. So bottom line is, if you're not happy in your job situation, you got to own the situation you're in. Maybe you got sold a bill of goods at school and you got put into a college program that didn't suit you or whatever, but it's your situation to own now. And if you're putting in the work and showing up seriously during each day, you're going to move forward. So don't wait for the better job to do better now. It really matters.
Hell yeah, man. That's great advice. That's really that's solid. Let's end it on that.
All right.
That's really good stuff. And we're going to be doing this hopefully on a weekly basis.
I love it.
That's the
thanks
goal.
everybody for
I like
tuning
this.
in. Yeah, it's fun.
And if you tune in and you do listen and you're like, there's some things you want to ask about or questions you have, please, wherever you're listening to this, you can find Rob Z Radio on Facebook. That might be the best place, or Kyle
D.
Damon
Marketing. Kyle D. Marketing.
Kyle
That's
D.
where it's
Marketing
at.
on Facebook.
We set it up. Yeah, we set it up today. Facebook,
Cool,
Instagram, Kyle D. Marketing. You search for that, you'll find me on there.
Nice.
We got all kind of great marketing subjects, topics.
Just shoot us DMs and let us know,
Yeah.
like, if there's something you're interested in. We just want to hear from people who know they're listening and know that we're making some sort of impact. So, Kyle, thank you. Rachel, thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob.
And we'll talk to you
See
next
everybody.
time.
This is Rob Z Radio.